Island of Terror is a 1966 British sci-fi horror film, directed by Terence Fisher, and is based on Jerry Fernbach's screenplay, titled The Night the Silicates Came. Our story starts on a remote island, just off the coast of Ireland, as some locals speculate the mysterious intentions of a small band of clandestine scientists. That night, we follow a man named Ian Bellows, who is walking home through the woods, when he hears an ominous sound coming from a cave nearby. He goes to investigate, for some strange reason, and is consequently attacked by something making slurping and gurgling noises. Next we see Bellows' wife, who is worried that her husband hasn't come home, and the local Bobby Constable Harris agrees to search for the wayward wanderer. He explores Bellows' usual route home, and finds the recently departed on the ground in the cave. Harris winces at the sight of Bellows' slaughtered body, and after a quick prod, he escapes the crime scene to get help from someone who knows what they're doing. He seeks out Dr. Landers, the island's physician, and explains that Bellows is dead, but his body is now a jellified mush. Of course, Dr. Landers thinks Harris is one sandwich short of a picnic, but when they both return to the cave, he confirms that Bellows is indeed a very flexible boneless banquet of a man. Dr. Landers then seeks the help of Dr. Stanley, an esteemed London pathologist, who thinks Landers is a few fries short of a happy meal. Then Dr. Landers and Dr. Stanley seek out Dr. West, an expert on bone diseases, who immediately assumes the pair of them are one prawn short of a cocktail. Dr. West is originally reluctant to follow the other doctors, especially as he is trying to get his groove on with Toni Merrill, a jet-setting sauce pot, but after she offers the medical trio the use of her father's helicopter, they agree to visit the island, and solve the riddle that is old boneless Bellows. After their arrival, they quickly get to work at unraveling the mystery of Bellows, and after an autopsy, discover an enzyme that is capable of melting human bone. Next, they break into the home and research laboratory of Dr. Phillips, remember, the secretive scientist at the start, after they learn that he and his team had been working on a cure for cancer. But Dr. Phillips and his oncological cohorts are also dead as dodos, and just as boneless as Bellows. The gang decide to have a read of Dr. Phillips' medical notes in the comfort of the local pub, whilst Constable Harris pokes his nose around Phillips's lab, and is apprehended by a deadly dangler. When the doctors hear that Harris is missing, they rush over to the lab, where they find the constable's deflated corpse, and encounter the creature responsible. It's some kind of giant grotesque ravioli, sporting a rather intriguing slimy nozzle, and there's two of them up to no good. Dr. Landers attempts to smash one of the slippery shit heads with an axe, but the creature is solid as a rock, and in retaliation, the glutinous life form melts the good doctor's bones for good measure. The survivors are stunned, but name the ravenous organisms silicates, and watch as the overgrown tortellinis divide and multiply, creating a delicious spaghetti surprise. So there we have it. A platoon of motiveless indestructible jelly bastards, who can't wait to turn your bones into soup. A small crew of scientists, who really don't want their bones turned into soup, and a leading lady that is so underused in this movie, you'll barely remember that she was even in it at all. Can the scientists find a way to stop the silicates, before they take over the entire island? Will the silicates keep multiplying until they are strong enough to take over the entire planet? And why don't the residents just get in their boats and leave? It sure beats hanging around waiting to be turned into a human wetsuit. Island of Terror is an entertaining, if not bizarre and sometimes comical, low-budget flick, that is one of the last significant examples of a horror film plot, more common in the 1950s, in which a scientist's botched experiment is defeated using scientific techniques. For the most part, the acting is on point, but even Peter Cushing, who is known for stealing the show, is a little off the boil in his performances. In one part, he is ambushed by one of the silicates, and just when it looks like he is doomed to be sucked dry, like the other floppy victims, he urges West to chop his hand off. It's one of the few gruesome scenes in Island of Terror, but afterwards, when we see him all bandaged up, all he seems to do is crack jokes, and doesn't really seem that bothered that his hand is lying alone on someone's driveway. The special effects are laughable in this movie, which is a real shame, as the concept of a silicon-based organism that can liquefy your bones is quite frankly horrifying. The silicates, which are basically green rubber blankets, move so slowly that they don't really pose a threat unless they are in a group, or you are close to them, but it was hilarious to see them drop from the sky onto the unsuspecting townspeople. Can you imagine looking up and being crushed by one of these flaccid latex bath mats? What a way to go. Despite the disappointing enemies, Island of Terror did a good job at building tension and anxiety, especially in the scene where the villagers tried to defend themselves in the town hall. It was clear they didn't have a clue what they were fighting against, and the fact it all took place on an island with nowhere to run or hide, did add to the fear factor. I enjoyed this movie, but I think it had the potential to be far scarier, if only they had worked harder on the creature design. Give it a watch if you're looking for a slow-burning sci-fi thriller, but don't expect to be hiding behind the sofa at every scene. I doubt you'll be having nightmares about this one. So what did you make of Island of Terror? Did it succeed in scaring the life out of you? Or was it like flogging a dead horse? Thanks for watching another horror movie review. Leave me a comment below if you have any suggestions of movies I should review next, and why not drop me a like, or subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of my videos. I've been HB, the Horror Bot. Cheers babes.